Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Super Game Brothers, our weekly podcast about board games and video games. Really appreciate you being here. It's going to be a good episode today. This is episode number 5.
Can you believe it?
I can't. It's kind of crazy. My name's David, and you already heard my co-host's name. Or you didn't hear his name. You heard his voice. How are you doing today, Devin?
I'm doing quite fantastic, yes.
Nice. Good. Yeah, you just had a long day of streaming, which I think went pretty well over on the TikToks and the Twitches.
Yes. TikTok is going absolutely crazy. I don't know why, but that website is fantastic for growth.
Yeah, they like you right now. You must be doing something right. Just don't mention feet or feet pics on there.
Do not mention feet pics on TikTok.
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, I think you said that once as a joke, right? And got banned for a day.
I got banned instantly, too. Like, within 10 seconds, they were like,
yeah.
Your live privileges revoked. Get off the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really odd. Because I'm sure people do so much worse than say feet on TikTok streams. So, yeah. And you run a family-friendly show over there, so I don't know what they thought was so bad.
I don't either. Yeah.
Maybe too many people started liking it after you said feet. And they're like, oh no, This guy, he's soliciting, untoward things. But
exactly.
Yeah, cool. Glad that is going well. Devin is on Twitch and TikTok. He's at Player4 on Twitch and at Player4 TV on TikTok.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yep, Monday through Friday. So check him out over there. He does a great job. He's playing Fallout 4 right now, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, so excited to be here. Couple little things here before we get going. I wanted to ask you this question, Devin. Tonight I was thinking, after I ate my dinner, that I had eaten probably the most gamer dinner I have eaten in a long time. I was going to ask you, what do you think I had for dinner if I would label it gamer dinner?
Doritos, Mountain Dew, and maybe a little bit of candy.
Okay.
What else could be in there? I mean, he's got to have something with like some carbs. Gamer dinner. I don't feel like it's going to be like a pasta or like a burrito. Burritos, Doritos, and Mountain Dew.
You know what? I think that's a pretty dang good guess. And you were part of the way there. I definitely had my Mountain Dew. Still got it here with me. But we had Little Caesars pizza. And I feel like that was kind of the I'm a poor broke teenager and we can afford a $5 hot and ready. But, nothing fancier than that. So, did you know they're not $5 anymore?
What have they raised it to?
I think they're like $7 or $7.50. It's like $15 for 2 pizzas.
Did they have to change the name? I feel like it used to be like hot and ready $5 pizza. I don't know. Maybe not.
I'm not sure. We don't frequent that establishment quite enough to know that. I think they do still call it a hot and ready though. They also have like a new one that's got double pepperoni or something. Not very good pizza, but we promised.
Their pizza is so average.
Yeah, it's really not good. We just promised the kids that we would get them some pizza if they went to school nice today, and surprisingly they did. So they, we rewarded them normally. It can be, yeah. We got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. So going to first grade and preschool, especially the preschool age one, doesn't really like leaving mom at that moment.
I see.
But, I kind of got some empathy for that. I know I didn't love going to kindergarten, first grade at all. So anyways, that was my my gamer fuel that I had for dinner. It was very mediocre, except for the Mountain Dew. I'm fully on board with the Mountain Dews. Just need to get some better pizza, gamers. Get some better pizza in the gamer dinner. Other thing I wanted to ask you. It started to be, quite a bit warmer, but not really anymore this week. It's just been full of rain. What is your opinion on rain? Like it, hate it, somewhere in the middle?
My opinion on rain. I like the way that it smells. Feels like the earth is clean when it rains, which I enjoy. I've self-diagnosed myself as having phonophobia. And it's like this fear of like really abrupt noises. So when it's really thundery, I don't love that.
Right.
I like streaming from this closet because it feels safe and I feel protected. But if it's just raining, I think it's kind of peaceful, honestly. But it's kind of annoying because I wear glasses everywhere. Gets all over my glasses. I don't like rain. Nope. Rain's not for me. It's fine.
Sound a little bit like Anakin right now. I hate rain. It gets everywhere and it's itchy. What does he say? With sand? I think he says, I don't like sand. It gets in everything and it's coarse. That's like one of the most made fun of lines in that series for sure. But
that's amazing. Why do I not know this line?
It's when he's trying to impress Padme, He's trying to rizz her up by telling her how much he doesn't like sand.
That's the way I do it.
Yeah. So, first date, what's your opinion on sand?
That's the go-to question.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I, as someone that has a small lawn, I like rain. Leave the car out in the rain, get kind of a free car wash. Even though that sometimes just makes it dirtier depending on the state of the rain. But yeah, I don't like going out in it so much. I don't like getting wet. I don't like wet clothing, water on my face, but I like watching the rain from afar. So cool. All right. Well, this is a video game podcast and a board game podcast, not a rain and gamer food podcast, but I thought those were two worthwhile things to bring up. This podcast goes live every Monday, so please check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. It should be there Mondays at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. You can also get our show 3 days early by checking us out on Patreon at patreon.com/supergamebrothers, and you can get some other cool perks there as well. You can write in to the show. You can get the show early. You can even get your name in the credits if you so desire. We also have a free tier where you can just get access to some of our extra content over there totally for free. So please check out the Patreon. Just follow us for free, and that'd be wonderful. Cool. All right, well, we're going to hop right into what we have been playing this last week. I've got a few games. I know we have one game that is a bit of a crossover. But Devin, I'm going to let you start.
Oh, yes. So video games. I've been continuously playing Fallout 4. Absolutely obsessed with the game. I truly don't want to stop playing it. I don't think chat loves that I'm still playing it. At least, some of them. But the game's fantastic. Of them like it. Yeah, I would say most of them do. We've had a lot of people helping us, a lot of backseat gamers trying to get me to play the game their way. Yeah. Fallout 4 is fun because it allows you to play the game in any way that you want. We are going currently for a silenced pistol build stacked with quicker XP, a ton of damage, and kind of a build that doesn't allow you to easily be killed. When you get low enough in health, you actually go slow motion. It gives you crazy damage reduction and more damage output, so you were able to escape for 20 seconds or so in slow motion. But loving the game. Truly, it's massive. We've been searching for all the hidden collectibles. They're called bobbleheads in the game. They give you different permanent perks. There's also magazines that you can read for permanent perks. We've been looking for those as well. Just found a little map for those, and we just go to the area and then search the entire area until we find it. We don't spoil it too much for ourselves, because it is still fun to search for them, but without a little bit of a guide, oof, I don't know that you'd ever find them. They are, yes. But loving the game. I know you've been playing it too.
I have, and yeah, it is fun to see how differently everyone plays it. I've been just a little plug here. I've been playing it and recording my playthrough segment, so I've played probably 8 hours at this point. And for games that are rated M, we don't put them on our base YouTube channel. We put them on Patreon, and you can watch those for free on our Patreon channel just by following our Patreon, totally for free. So that's where segment 1 is right now, and I have a few more segments in the queue that will go live later this week and next week. So yeah, I have been playing quite a bit as well, and I'm playing quite a bit differently. Mine, I haven't explored very much. I am basically still in the area around Sanctuary, built up Sanctuary a little bit, and I've been focusing primarily on hacking and lock picking, because I absolutely hate it when I get to one of those that's like master level and I can't get in. So those are the two things I've really been focusing on, and then just kind of exploring the little regions around. I did finally get to Diamond City in my 4th segment, but yeah, it's very cool. Playing it with the next gen upgrade helps a lot.
What a difference that has made.
Yeah, because even with like the upgrade, you can still tell it's kind of an older game, but it just feels so much better that you don't really care that, like, you know, occasionally someone misses a line of dialogue or it's a tiny bit janky. That just kind of makes it like kind of quirky and fun, I would say. So yeah, I've also been really enjoying it. It's a bit overwhelming with how big it is. I've been trying to make it a point to read everything in the terminals as well, and so that can take a while sometimes too. But it is kind of cool. You get some backstory about like mutinies that happened in like the different vaults and stuff like that. So yeah, super cool game. I'm not especially like great at first person shooters, so I feel like I miss a lot of my shots. And another stat I've been focusing on is the one that lets you scavenge for ammunition better. Like when you find random like crates and stuff, you have a higher chance finding more ammo. And that's been helpful because I waste a lot of ammo.
I think I'm doing the same one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one, especially like early on when it's kind of a struggle for ammo. And if you get to a fight and only have like 20 bullets, like you're just going to run out and die. Yeah, super cool. I really like it's just kind of has, it's very different, but it kind of has that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom vibe, where you get somewhere just like over the next hill or crest or past a building and you see something else cool. Like, oh man, I've got to check that out. And so it's just like distraction, the video game, but it's fun to get distracted. You're like, okay, in this segment, this is what I've been doing. At the beginning of my playthrough segment, I say, okay, this is my plan. I'm going to do this and this. It's going to take like about an hour, and I might not even get to that thing, or it takes 3 times as long just because I stopped 10 more places on the way there. But very cool. Some of the I found this key in this place, I think called Carvega facility or whatever, from killing like the, what would you call that? Like the boss in there. His name was Jared.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, he dropped a key that has this little rocket attached to it, and I've been trying to find that safe, and I'm not sure if it's in the facility, or since there was a rocket on the key, I thought, oh, it's got to be at the Red Rocket station that's right next to the facility. But it wasn't there either. So sometimes it's a little hard to find things just because the world is so big, but maybe I missed a hint or a clue somewhere.
So you didn't end up finding it?
I didn't. I asked you in your stream today, and I think you gave me a little bit of a hint. So I think it is like in the facility behind like a piece of cardboard, you said, kind of propped up.
Yes,
Yeah, so I need to go back there. But since I've left that area, I think if I go back, all the raiders will be back. I think, except for probably Jared.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah. But yeah, very cool game. The story, I'm trying to like pay more attention. I don't think I got through all of my backstory here. I have played probably the first 15 hours of this game back when it came out on PlayStation 4. I played for a couple weeks when it first came out, but I didn't connect very well with the game and the story, and it was even harder to play and aim. And I don't feel like VATS is especially great in that game. I don't know, maybe it's just that's a personal problem where I don't love. I like statistics. I mean, I work with statistics at work every day, but I in like a game like that, I want my shots to hit if I'm aimed at the right spot. And so you go in VATS and you're like, okay, I got 80% chance to hit his head, and you put 2 shots there and miss them both. It's really frustrating. So I don't use VATS a ton. I'm mainly just free aiming, and it's so much easier to free aim now. And I think that's why I didn't like it in the old when I played it originally. So yeah, cool game. Mama Murphy is kind of a weird, like, oracle character that's like taking all these drugs to tell you about your destiny and stuff, and it's a little bit odd. I wonder if they'll explain that in some way, like why does she know all these things just from taking Jet and Mentat or whatever they're called. But yeah, so the story's kind of odd, but I'm excited to see how it kind of wraps up if you learn about your son and know where he's at. And I still don't know, and maybe this is me reading into it too much, I don't know how old he is, because you were in the vault for like 200 years, I think it said, some time around that. And at some point, you woke up for a little bit when they, killed your spouse and took the baby. But then did you go back into cryo sleep? Or did you wake up like 10 minutes later? I'm not sure. So he might still be an infant. I have no idea. Maybe he's 30. I don't know. Those are the questions going on in my Fallout head.
Yeah, I don't have any questions because I skip all the dialogue. Everyone's always like, so what's going on in the game? I'm like, all I can tell you is where we just went and how many times I died. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but even, playing it those 2 different ways, I think pretty much anyone could enjoy it, get some fun out of it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how much like the open world will continue to like be intriguing, or if there will come a point where I'm like, okay, I just want to mainline the story now. We'll see. Right now it's very fun to get distracted, but I don't know how long that will last. Yeah, so I don't know. Fallout 4, very fun. Again, check it out on Patreon, totally for free. You can follow our Patreon and watch any of our content for games that are rated M. That just helps us keep our YouTube channel a little more family friendly if someone's just, Googling Super Game Brothers and wants to watch, Mario Wonder or something with their kids. But yeah, Fallout 4, I've been having a blast with it too. I think you're quite a bit further than me. Like I said, I'm about 8 hours. You're probably, 30 or so?
Roughly, yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Have you made it to like the other main cities? I don't know what they are after Diamond City, but I know eventually you can get to Boston, I believe. I don't think you've been to like another main city, have you?
No, I saw a map online that basically said they cut the map into like 9 squares. And it goes like 1, 2, 3, like you're reading a book, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. And that's kind of the way they say to play the game. So that's how we were trying to find the bobbleheads today.
Oh, funny.
Was starting in section 1, then 2, then 3, in that order, so that I didn't end up in too hard of sections.
Okay, so going east seems to be okay, but once you start going south is when you're going to get really wrecked.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's probably a good thing to know. Yeah, Fallout. Just still taking over the world. We'll have a bit more to talk about Fallout with towards the end of the show. But yeah, cool. I'm excited to watch the rest of your streams, and we'll see how many segments I'm able to turn that game into. It seems like it'll probably be a lot if I'm able to finish it. I think at the beginning, again, I usually do this with my playthroughs on our YouTube channel. In the first segment, I give my early impressions, early review after the first segment, which I think was about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I thought it was pretty solid at that point. The story's pretty gripping. At that point, you just watched like the world get nuked and woke up in the vault, and then you got to escape the vault, figure out what happened in the vault, and I don't know if that was too much of a spoiler what I said earlier, but of your spouse dying, but that happens like so early. I don't think that's really a spoiler at all. But yeah, so there's a lot of like crazy stuff going on. So gold trophy for me so far, and we'll see if the story kind of pulls it along more, or if I fall off. I feel like most of the games I've played lately have been, pretty good experiences. I haven't had any that been like, nope, I'm out. So yeah, I don't know. Fallout 4, cool game. I've got a couple more, unless you have anything else you want to say about Fallout, Dev.
No, I don't think so. I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Cool. All right, I've been playing, just really quickly, I've still been playing Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Still great. I haven't made a huge amount of progress just because of the next game I'm going to talk about. But The Lost Crown I am finishing, or planning on finishing, shortly on the YouTube channel. I've recorded, I think, 12 segments, and 6 of them are up so far, so those will continue to be trickling out as well. But my new obsession is a very popular indie game right now. You can get it on Steam or on PlayStation. I'm assuming it's other places too, but it's called Balatro, and it is a card game. And I don't know, it kind of has a similar vibe to me as something like Slay the Spire, where you're trying to make a really awesome deck to kind of complete runs, and when you die, you go back to the beginning in a roguelike kind of way. Balatro is a lot simpler than something like Slay the Spire, because Slay the Spire is all about like attack points and defense and has all these magic rules and things like that. Balatro is based on poker hands, so which basically everybody knows about. Full house and a straight and a flush and a pair and 2 pair and things like that. But at that point, it's not any more similar to poker after that point. You don't have to know like how to play poker well and like when to bluff and that kind of thing. How it works is you have a deck of cards, and you start with just a standard deck of face cards, ace to king in the 4 different suits: hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. And you're trying to get through 8 levels. They call them antes. So you're like anteing up after you beat each level. And in a level, there will be 3 kind of matches: the small blind, the big blind, and the boss blind. Basically just 3 little matches that you have to win to move on to the next level. In a match, you have to score a certain number of points to win that match, or else you lose, and then would have to start a new run over. And so you get points by playing those poker hands. Poker hands that are harder to play are generally worth more points at the beginning. So like a straight flush, which is all the cards in the same suit, and 5 numbers in a row is the most valuable at the beginning. Probably a royal flush, actually, where the straight includes 10 jack queen king ace, I think, is the highest you can get. But the cool thing about this game is you can play it so many different ways, and it has some special joker cards that are kind of the entire point of the game. So if you play a hand or one of those matches, the small blind, for example, and win, then you get some money, and then you go to the shop. And in the shop, you can buy new cards. Some of the cards are joker cards. Joker cards get put in this section up on the top, and they're kind of your combo multipliers. And there, I think, are like 150 different jokers. And you can get like lucky with different joker rolls, where like this joker is this base joker, but it's also holographic or negative or foil, or like all these different attributes that add different things. So you're trying to get these jokers that synergize well together. Then you can also buy other cards. They're called celestial packs. And in one of those, you'll get a card that's like named Venus or Saturn or Pluto or something. And they take one of the hands you can play, so either a straight or a full house or a pair, 2 pair, flush, and they upgrade that hand to the next level, so that hand becomes more valuable after you play that card. And so it doesn't always follow normal poker rules. After a few rounds, if I have upgraded, in my last game, for example, I played with a very unique deck. It's called the checkered deck. And you only get it after you've won a round with the black deck, which is a very different deck. In the black deck, you can have... it's a little hard to explain, but you can have 6 jokers instead of 5. But in each match, you get to play 1 fewer hand to get to the point level that you need to. So you have more jokers that can combo off each other, but fewer played hands. The deck I did yesterday was the checker deck, and in that deck there are no diamonds or clubs. You have 26 hearts, so 2 of each, and 26 spades, so 2 of each. And in that deck, obviously, things like a flush, where you need 5 cards of the same suit, are a lot easier to get. So that's what I did. I focused exclusively on flushes, and then I got a joker that would give me a +4 multiplier anytime a scoring card I played was a heart. So then I was trying to find these, they're called tarot cards. They're kind of like the celestial cards. They let you do something special. I was trying to find special tarot cards that would let me discard cards from my deck. So I was trying to purge all of the spades from my deck and get more hearts, so that I always drew hearts and always had a flush. And I had upgraded my flush till it was like level 7. So my flush was my most valuable hand by far. It was way better than even a full house or a straight or any of those other ones. So you really get to like customize what you want that run to be like. And yeah, it's an excellent card game. I really, really love it. If you like card games, and if you like kind of deck building, which is a very big thing in board games, games like Dune Imperium or Lost Ruins of Arnak are pretty popular recent ones. I think Ruins of Arnak is right here behind me, which Devin again won't be able to see because my face did just freeze a minute ago. Love that for us. Yeah, the deck building in it is just awesome because you can be super, super specific with what you do, and those jokers are so fun. There's a few trophies in the game. So when you play a hand, I guess stepping back just a little bit, the hand that you play might have a base value. Let's say if I was playing a flush, it might be 30 chips times a multiplier of 2. So that base hand would start being valued at 60 chips. And then each card you played in the flush adds its value in chips to that. So if I played it with a 10, a 9, a 8, a 7, and a 6, then I would be adding all of those values. So plus 10, so it would be 40 times 2, plus 9, 49 times 2, plus the 8, plus the 7, plus the 6. So you're kind of adding to the left side of the calculation, which is the number of chips. And then if you're able to play good cards and have good jokers, you're hopefully adding to the multiplier side of the calculation too. I think the best hand that I have had was just comboing everywhere. And you know, some of the like combos you can do with the jokers seem like they would be overpowered and like break the game, but it's just fun to watch. Like you play out a hand and then it's ding 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 ding, and like all these combos bouncing around, and then you score 60,000 chips on that one hand. But there's a trophy in the game for getting a single hand over 1 million chips and one for over 100 million, I believe. So I've like still barely scratched the surface of like how combo-tastic it can be. I think I'll play this game.
Big numbers.
Yeah, very big, especially like in the first ante, the first 3 levels you play. I think the goal you're going for is like you have to score 300 chips to pass this level, and then 500 chips, and then 600 maybe. But yeah, towards the end, it's like you have to have 50,000 chips to pass this level, or 75,000, 100,000. And of those 3 levels you have to pass, the boss is always the third one. And each boss will have a special ability. Like you can only play one hand is one of the toughest ones this level. So you have to have like a monster hand to pass that one. That one's really tough. Or it might say all of the hearts this round are debuffed so they don't score, or all of the face cards don't score, or you can only play one hand type this match. So once you play like a straight, then the rest of the hands you play that match have to also be straights. So you have to be pretty careful on planning ahead for what the boss is going to do so that you don't lose. But man, so fun. I think I'll play this game for years and years. It's just so fun to do another run. Runs, they can last a little long sometimes, but 30 minutes probably is kind of the average that I've had across the 6 days that I've played it. I have it on PlayStation Network. I really want to buy it on Steam too, so that I can play it on my Rogue Ally in bed, though. I could stream it from my PlayStation to the Rogue Ally. I'll probably try that. I do want to get the platinum before I buy it on Steam, though, so that I'm not splitting my efforts between 2 achievement lists, because I'm kind of crazy that way. But yeah, Balatro is amazing. It's definitely going to, unless it really falls off a cliff in the next dozen segments that I play, it's going to get a platinum trophy from me for sure. It's just incredible.
Wow.
$15, and yeah, you could play it for dozens and dozens of hours. You're always unlocking new things too. Like if you win a run, you unlock a new deck, and you might unlock a new Joker, and there's just so many different combinations every single time you play it. It feels like something like Spelunky that you could play 1,000 times and still see new things and have new combos come up, new Jokers, and you're able to use this special card to turn a Joker negative or holographic that you've never had negative before. A negative Joker doesn't take one of your slots. So then you can add like a 6th Joker, even though you're only supposed to be able to hold 5. And so using that and the black deck that lets you start with 6, I was able to get up to 8 Jokers at once. Yeah, so it's just way fun. Just the ways that you can break that game. I would highly recommend that to basically everyone on Earth, unless you hate card games. But man, such a dopamine hit every time you like have a great hand. You just feel like, man, I'm so cool watching these digital numbers pop up on the screen like fireworks. So yeah,
Yeah,
can't
check
recommend.
out Balatro. I'm looking at it on Steam right now. 30,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Yeah, it has a 10 out of 10 on Steam. I think like the review is rounded a little bit, so it's probably like 9.99 or whatever. But yeah, it's been super popular this year. Very small indie game. I don't know how big the team is that made it, but yeah, just wonderful. I hope that they've sold over 1 million copies, so I hope they're all filthy rich. Wow. And I hope that they really continue to release new content and card packs or whatever. Balatro is amazing. I won't talk about it anymore because I feel like I could talk about it forever, and it is kind of a hard game to explain. I don't feel like I explained it super well, but it's all about cards and combos, and don't be scared of it if you don't know how to play poker. I don't, other than knowing like the hands, which most people know, like a straight and a 2 pair and whatever. That's the only thing poker related that you need to know, and the game teaches it to you really well. So don't be scared of it at all. All right, that is it for the video games that we've been playing this week. Moving on to board games. Devin's been super busy, so he hasn't had the chance to play any board games this week, which is fine. That happens. So I've just got 2 that I'm going to talk about really quick. And yeah, I'll just start with the smaller one first. So this game is called Natillion, and Devin again can't see it, but it's a game in the Oniverse series. It's a series of solo-only games created by the same designer. I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Shadi Torby. And they're pretty much regarded as some of the best solo board games. It's a really cool series. I think I have 4 of them from his series. This one is probably the most simple. Basically, you were trying to get your ship, the Natillion, to the end of this track before the enemy ship goes starting at the other end of the track, gets back to you. And then there's this dark lighthouse over on the side that's trying to hinder you kind of the whole time. So it's very simple. On every turn, you take 3 dice and roll them, and you have to assign 1 die to your ship, 1 die to the enemy ship, and 1 die to the dark lighthouse. And getting rerolls in this game is very tough. You can get them, but it's pretty tough. And depending on what numbers you assign to, the number you assign to yourself is the number of spots you move forward. The number that you assign to the enemy ship on the other end of the track is the number of spaces they move towards you. And then the number that you assign to the dark lighthouse might have some negative effect on you if it's like greater than 2 or something. And the dice aren't d6s. They, I think, just are 1s, 2s, and 3s. There might be a 4. But I think it's just 1s, 2s, and 3s. So it's a pretty simple game. You're trying to get to the other end. Along the way, it's not like a cardboard, like a board track. It's a bunch of little cardboard discs, tokens, that make up the track. So you don't have to make it in a straight line. If you don't have a lot of space, you could play this on like a coffee table and just kind of have it swerve back and forth. And as you're moving from one disc to the next, you have to pick up one of every value. They're like the different, what are they called? Like the passengers or the crewmates of this Nautilian ship. So you have to get one of every crewmate to fill up your shipboard before you reach the end, or again, you don't win. So you're trying to move far enough to get the crewmates that you need, trying to not assign values of dice too high to the opposing ship, or else it will get to the end of the track before you do. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun dice puzzle. Very simple to play. You can play in 10-15 minutes. But I'm not always a huge fan of like super lucky dice games, but this one's short enough and it kind of reminds me of something like Yahtzee enough that I just really enjoy it. Most of the games in the Oniverse series do have a bunch of mini expansions inside them, and this one comes with 5 as well, alongside a whole bunch of different ships that make it more difficult to place those crewmates in the ship. And so you can really ramp up the difficulty if you want to, or just play the base version if you're struggling to win. So Nautilian is really great. I would recommend it a lot. I think it's the simplest of the Oniverse games that I've played. So if you're looking for an entry point into that kind of solo series, that's probably the one that I would recommend starting with. So Nautilian, played that a few times this last week. Really like it. Next one, I've been playing because I had Fallout on the mind. It's not Fallout related necessarily, but it is about a world that's been destroyed by what might be nuclear weapons by this evil group of people named Cloud. And the game is called Cloud Age. It was made by a very famous designer. His name is Alexander Pfister. He does have a co-designer on this game, Arndt, I think it's Steenwender. But in this game, the world's kind of been destroyed, and you play as a faction of people trying to travel over the land and kind of fix it up and fight any raiders out of these cities. So there's a big board, and you travel from one end of the board to the other in your blimp. So you have this blimp that's kind of like your home base, and you'll be upgrading your blimp, upgrading the engines to move farther, the solar panels, and kind of these fans on the front. And then you play cards underneath your blimp as well. Kind of the really unique thing about this game is it takes that idea of flying a blimp around, landing on a city, and then looking down from your blimp through the clouds to try and see what's at that city. And it made a mechanic for that. So there are 3 stacks of cards that podcast can see, but Devin can't, unless he's looking at the pictures online from the link. So hopefully he can see some of those. I have seen a few of them,
yes.
Yeah. These stacks of cards go in card sleeves, and on top of the card sleeves are printed clouds. And so you look at these 3 cards, and the majority of the card you can't see because there's clouds covering it from this sleeve that you put the cards in. And you have to decide, based on what you can see through the little segments of the cloud, which of those cities you want to land at, because they give you different things. They might give you water or steel or different resources, or let you upgrade your ship. And if you really want something specific, you need to make sure the city or card you're selecting will give you that. So it's kind of fun. You can't take the card out of the sleeve until you've landed there. And then once you do, you get whatever is listed there. And all the players, when someone goes to a card location like that, everyone else is playing also gets to play and get something there too. So there's not a lot of downtime in the game. I really enjoyed this game, the play that I had of it this last week. I know Alexander Pfister is a designer that has made a lot of bigger and more complicated games than this one, and so I think this one was a bit of a letdown to a lot of people because it has like a cool vibe, Fallout vibe, but you're flying blimps instead of shooting scorpions. But it really isn't very complicated. I think on like Board Game Geek's difficulty scale from 1 to 5, it's probably like a 2.7 or something. I didn't look it up beforehand, and most of his other games are quite a bit more complicated. Can't remember if he did Great Western Trail. I think he did, which is a pretty complex game. I have one of them over there, so I was trying to see if I could see his name on it, but I think he did that one. Another one that he did just recently. Oh, that was super popular. What was it called? I can't remember. Anyways, he makes a lot of heavy Euro games, and so I think people are let down because of that. But I wouldn't let it dissuade you. There's a lot of unique parts of that game. That sleeve mechanism is really fun, and it's just a fun idea to upgrade your blimp so that it's better. You can choose to really focus on one specific thing, like movement, so that you can move really far and get down to the end of the track where the cities are better. Or you can upgrade kind of the weapons on your blimp so that you can fight off the raiders at the different cities better. Just a really, really cool game. If you like something that's a little unique but has some tried and true mechanisms in there of resource conversion, you also get to like activate different segments of cards that you have under your blimp. So like all the blue cards will activate if you do this, or all the yellow ones will activate if you do that. So there's a little bit of engine building that you can do there too. Yeah, I really liked Cloud Age. So that is the other game that I've been playing this week. If you're interested in either of those games, check them out in the description of the YouTube channel, or the YouTube video for this episode. Those links do help support the channel, just as another plug. So anyways, thanks. And yeah, Cloud Age and Nautilion, really enjoy both of them. I don't know that either one of them is like the highest tier, like best games I've played, but they're like really solid. I would give probably a low 8 out of 10 to or something. Just good solid fun. So those are the board games I've been playing this last week. With that, we're going to get to the news segment of the show, and I'll try to pop in with Devin, with you, a whole bunch of times here so that it's not just me talking too much, but there is quite a bit here. First thing first, we always talk about the free games this week, and there's not much at this point in time. I should have said this at the top, but we are recording this episode 2 days early because I have a work conference that I have to do on our normal recording day. But Wednesday, which will be May 1st, should be the day that Sony announces what the PlayStation Plus Essential free games are, and they will come out the following Tuesday, which should be the 7th, I think. So look out for those. By the time you hear this, they will already have been announced. So those 3 games looking into the future are super exciting, hopefully. The only other free game that is new from last week is always the Epic Store. They have their free game each week. And this week it is Orcs Must Die 3, which, looks like it might be okay. I don't know much about it, but you can play single player or co-op. And like the name suggests, I believe that you are trying to kill all the orcs. So if you also believe that orcs must die, maybe check that one out. New segment. I thought we might do just a little touch on any games that came out this last week that we thought were notable. And while I don't put too much weight in like review aggregation, I am just going to tell you what their Open Critic score is, just as like a starting point. And if you want to look into them any deeper, then you totally can. I think the biggest game that came out this last week was Stellar Blade. It's, I believe, only out on PlayStation 5. I don't think it's on PC even. Maybe it is. Don't hold me to that. I can't remember. It's reviewed pretty well. It's got a strong score from OpenCritic, 82 out of 100 from review aggregation. So yeah, if you like that one, check it out. It's a little too how do I say this nicely? Yeah, I don't know. The combat looks really fun. We'll just stop there. That's all that needs to be said, I think. Number 2, I think is looks really cool. I'm excited to try this one when it goes on sale. Inevitably, it is also on Game Pass, so maybe I'll try it before our Game Pass trial runs out on May 19th or whatever. It's called Another Crab's Treasure. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but it is a Souls-like game where you are a little crab, and I think some other underwater creatures stole your shell, and so you're trying to get your shell back, and you have to fight lots of other crabs and other underwater sea life, and it's very Souls-like combat with parrying and invisibility frames, I believe, in your dodges. And so it's also reviewed pretty well. It's got a strong score from OpenCritic at 78. Topspin 2K25 is a tennis game, and just from reading around on Push Square, I know that one of their writers over there really loves tennis games, and according to him, there hasn't been a great tennis game in a long time. And this one seems to be like a pretty strong return to form for a tennis game. So if you like tennis games, Topspin 2K25 is supposed to be pretty solid. It's got a strong score from OpenCritic at 76. Next one I don't know much about, but Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, a JRPG, also has a strong score, 76. And Tales of Kenzera Zhao, which is free on PlayStation Plus Extra, also has a strong 76. This next one I thought was interesting looking. It's called Sandland, and I think it's based on either an anime or a manga that was written by, and I'm going to butcher this name, Akira Toriyama, who passed away recently, but he was the I think the person that wrote Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. So it has a very Dragon Ball kind of aesthetic to it. And it looks kind of like a fun, kind of simpler JRPG. You run around in your tank and other vehicles through this sand world and shoot stuff and meet new party members and level things up and stuff. I think that one looks pretty fun. I think I do want to try it out one day. And then the last one, I was a little bummed. TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade Wrath of the Mutants. I think it's a game from mobile that came over to console. It's got a weak score of 51. So those were the notable releases, at least from my perspective. Hopefully I didn't miss too many, but I think those were the big ones this week. Any of those look like games you'd want to play, Devin?
I've seen a little bit of Sandland via social media, and they were saying that it feels very natural and it looks super, super cool. So maybe I would check that one out. Vibe.
Yeah, I agree. I think
also Stellar Blade and Another really Crab's Treasure. Yeah, both of those. I mean, just the kind of Souls-like combat in Stellar Blade or the crab game. I mean, get my attention a little bit. But
yep, Souls-like combat is a Devin thing for sure. I also like it. So yeah, both of those are intriguing to me. The colorful and more family-friendly Another Crab's Treasure is more my style than the other one, but people have been loving Stellar Blade, so I totally get it. Cool. So many games release every week, so I'm sure we're missing some, but those seemed like the most notable ones. Okay, a few more bits of video game news. First one is a long one. Xbox had their ID at Xbox showcase today, which was hosted by IGN, I believe. It's their independent developers at Xbox. So it's their indie kind of showcase for, I don't know if they only do one a year. I feel like they do one around this time of the year every year. That might not be true. Maybe they'll have a second one, but some cool stuff shown there. There's a long list here, so I'll go over these pretty quickly. First one is called Aster, Blade of the Monolith. It's a colorful action game coming out on May 30th. It has a cool vibe. Kind of a hack and slash kind of looking action game. I thought it looked pretty cool. The next one I'm pretty excited for. It's called 33 Immortals. And I believe it's made by Thunder Lotus, who made this kind of like a really relaxing Zen game called Spiritfarer. That was very fun. You like meet people and help their souls pass on after they have died, and you kind of run this ship where you like take their souls to the next part of their journey, and you build like different parts of the ship, like a kitchen and like a greenhouse and all kinds of things, and you meet people and hear their stories, and you have to give lots of people these like animal spirit hugs. Anyway, Spiritfarer is really cool, especially aesthetically. It's very pretty. And 33 Immortals looks really cool too. It kind of has this similar color palette and like hand-drawn style. So the art is really cool. It's very unique. I don't know if the gameplay idea here will be for me, but the idea is it's an action roguelike game where you can play up to 33 player co-op, which is a big number.
Wow.
I don't know if you can like join a party with friends or if they always have to be like randos. I hope not, because that would seem kind of silly. But yeah, and with that group of players, you go it's kind of top down. So the point of view is kind of similar to Diablo, where you're looking down on your character and then doing all these fights and boss fights, and they call them raids in the trailer. So it's kind of like just this battle arena that you'll go through and might have a boss at the end. Looks like it could be really cool. That idea of having 32 other people that I don't know and my success or failure being based on them a little bit is a little odd, but maybe it'll be really awesome. I'm rooting for them because I think that's a cool team though. So that one looks cool. Check it out. 33 Immortals. Next one was Pal World, which has been out for a little bit, but is getting an update with new pals later this summer. Pal World is on Game Pass, and just as a note back on 33 Immortals, that will be coming to Game Pass when it launches later this year. And 33 Immortals is getting a closed beta on May 24th. So you can sign up on their website, I think, to maybe be selected for that closed beta. So Pal World, if you're interested in that, new pals coming out later this summer. Next one was a game called Centum. It's a point-and-click adventure game in kind of a creepy setting. I thought the art was really cool looking. I haven't found a point-and-click adventure game that I have loved yet. I know that in like the late 80s and early 90s, there are a lot of them that people really love. Monkey Island and is the first one that comes to mind. And I know there's tons, especially from Tim Schafer, I think is I can't think of the name of the studio that makes them, but a lot of point and click games, especially at that time in history, were super, super popular. And so I know a lot of people vibe with that genre where you're running from room to room looking for different, items. And if you combine this item with that item, it'll open a safe here and that'll let you progress. I've struggled to connect with a lot of those, but the vibe of that one looked pretty cool. Next up was Key Locker. It's a turn-based pixel art cyberpunk game that's coming out this summer. And the cool thing, I like it when turn-based games add some kind of active mechanic so that it's not strictly just I press attack and then wait 10 seconds and my character goes and does the attack. This one, it looks like has a few different mini games that you have to do during that battle. And if you do them better, then your attack might be a perfect attack or a strong attack or something. One of them was this kind of Guitar Hero looking thing where this track popped up and you have to press the D-pad directions at the right time in order to make your attack like a super strong one. So that might be cool if you like turn-based games that seemed kind of unique. Next up was Stampede Racing Royale, which I thought looked a lot like Little Big Planet karting or Mod Nation Racers. Basically, it's a Mario Kart kind of idea where you are kart racing, throwing items at each other. And this one also looked very heavily inspired kind of aesthetically by like Fall Guys maybe. And it didn't say exactly in the post I saw or in the trailer, but with Royale in the title, and they did show at one point like the list of all the players and some of them with big red X's on them. So you must be able to get knocked out of the race at some point, and whoever is the last one standing would be the winner. That's coming to Game Preview this summer, which is Xbox's version of Steam's kind of early access program. Looks kind of cool. Some colorful art if you like kart racers. Next up was an interesting one. I really like the Jackbox games. They've played them at quite a few family functions, and they're always a hoot. You know, doing some funny jokes and quiplash or something is a good time. I'm not usually a fan of like adult versions of board games or things like that, but Jackbox is having a naughty pack that's coming out later this year. So if you want a more spicy version of Jackbox, check that one out. Next one is called Times and Galaxy. It's an adventure game coming out in June 2024. Looked kind of quirky, cartoony, sci-fi kind of idea there. Next up was Farah, the Sundered Tribes. I thought this one looked really cool. I don't know if it'll be fun to play, but the idea looks cool. What they say in the trailer was co-op monster hunting, open world survival, and then kind of a simulation of building your own colony with a focus on aerial mechanics and flight. So you and your co-op team are kind of whipping around in these kind of windsuits. And you also have like a grappling hook that you can chain together to like stay in the air, so you don't have to land very often if you don't want to, and you fight these big monsters and you're trying to survive, build up a cool base. Looks very colorful and cool. Excited to check that one out. Next up, a game called Sulphur. It's a indie first-person shooter coming to Xbox. Looked super indie. If you like first-person shooters, it looked, kind of reminiscent of something like Doom, but with a very different art style than those old Doom games. Next up is All You Need Is Help. This one was one of the ones I thought was the best looking. It's a new game from Pixel Junk, which is really cool that they're making a new game. I can't think of a game they've made in a long time since Pixel Junk Monsters 2 is probably the last one I remember. Maybe they've made one since then, but they used to make a lot of games for PlayStation. There's so many that I can't remember them all now, but yeah, Pixel Junk Monsters is probably one of their most famous ones. This one kind of has a Snipper Clips vibe, which is a Switch game if anyone's played that. But it's top down, and each player play co-op, and each player controls kind of a Tetris-looking shape, like the L or a square. And you have to complete lots of different quirky, zany levels with those pieces. You might need to build a shape, or move an object, roll a ball like a specific way. So you just work together kind of in that sandbox. It looks pretty fun. That one's coming to Game Pass this fall. Next up is Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. A story-driven adventure from the folks behind Life is Strange. It's very similar Life is Strange vibes, like high school kids kind of out getting in trouble, figuring themselves out and their lives and stuff. It does seem like you have your own kind of camcorder that you're filming footage with, as opposed to moving a character around, maybe. Not 100% sure. That one's coming to Xbox, PC, and PS5 late 2024. So if you like Life is Strange and the other games that company, Don't Nod, makes, check out Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage. Next one we talked about last week, Tales of Iron 2. No new details like a release date or anything, but it did get a new trailer. So it's a gameplay trailer that shows, just some of the gameplay, obviously. And it does show some of the new enemies, which seem like they are bats this time, which they call Dark Wings. In the first game, the frogs were the enemies, and they had some fun name for the frogs too, and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't like croakers or something, but some cool name for that. The Dark Wings looked cool. Very excited for Tales of Iron 2. A few more here. Hangry was the next game. They call it a snack and slash. So it's a hack and slash game, but it looks like you're going out and beating up vegetables or trying to get food for your restaurant or something like that. Very odd looking vibe, kind of grungy sci-fi Star Wars vibe in my opinion, but yeah, I don't know. That one didn't look extremely appealing to me. Next one, Promise Mascot Agency. From the trailer, I couldn't glean a ton about how it will play, but it seemed sort of like a Japanese visual novel, and it's coming to Xbox in 2025, so not till next year. So maybe that's why there wasn't too much in the trailer. The next one looks really cool. Dungeons of Hinterberg will be out on Game Pass on July 18th. It's a colorful puzzle game. The character does have a sword on her back, so I don't know if there's fighting. This trailer focused specifically on puzzle solving. And one of the cool mechanisms was kind of like in Breath of the Wild, where you can spawn like an ice block from water. You can spawn a gelatinous cube kind of up from the ground as a puzzle solving mechanic. So I love puzzle games. That one looks pretty cool. Hopefully the gameplay will match. The last few things they showed was Vampire Survivors is getting an update. It's called the Laboratory Update, and it has new characters, new levels. And then they're also having their first, I think it's the first DLC pack based on Contra, which is Konami's game, and which is a little surprising because Vampire Survivors is such, not like a blatant ripoff, but so much inspired by one of Konami's other games, Castlevania, that it's a little surprising that Konami wasn't upset and instead said, yeah, we'll just lean into it with you, and here, use our Contra characters in your next update pack. So that's really cool. Vampire Survivors rules. It is on Game Pass, and that update comes out on May 9th. So check that out if you have Game Pass. And I believe it's coming to PlayStation soon too. It might even be that same day. Can't remember, but we talked about it last week. Next one, puzzle game Humanity is joining Game Pass on May 30th. That's a fun puzzle game. It's been out on PlayStation for like a year. You control this corgi dog that directs like hundreds and hundreds of people. And you basically have to try to get these people to the end of the level by putting like jump pads and all kinds of things in front of them to get them to the end of the level. If you like puzzle games, it's pretty quirky and fun. So look out for that. The next two segments were just kind of sizzle reels. There was a sizzle reel from Gamera Games where they revealed 5 games that were coming to Game Pass soon. One of them, called the Rewinder, is out today on Game Pass. The other 4 will be out soon. Their names are very odd, but I'll read them. Keplerth, Another World, Volcano Princess, Firework, and Depersonalization. So check out those. The Rewinder out today on Game Pass. And then other than that, they had kind of an ending sizzle reel that had some other games I thought were interesting too that are coming to the Xbox platform. I'm just going to read them really quick. Kill Knight, Risk of Rain 2 is getting an update called the Devotion Update. That's a very fun game. Again, kind of with how can I combo these crazy stats together. Kind of gives me a similar vibe to Balatro, but it's not a card game. It's like a shooter.
Do you remember when we played that?
Yeah, I do. It was super fun. I remember us getting really far.
It was, and I think
like
we got 2 or 3 hours in, and it crashed, didn't it?
It crashed, and it kind of ruined our run, and we were really bummed. I don't think we ever played it again, because that run was going so well. We had like these perfect combo builds that we just had bullets flying everywhere out of our characters and just killing everything. That game is very fun. Mm-hmm. Risk of Rain 2, super great. Hopefully they have fixed that. Maybe we broke the game with how awesome our builds were, but hopefully they have fixed that glitching issue.
Oh, yeah.
Next up was Shadow of Doubt, Pal World Arena, which kind of looks like the Pokemon Battle. How was that called? Pokemon. What was that called? That game from the like 90s or early 2000s where you just fought the Pokemon in like the arenas. Oh, that's gonna drive. Pokemon Stadium. That was it. Kind of looked like those kind of vibes. You're in an arena fighting the pals. So how much more Pokemon can Pal World rip off? It seems like all of it. Maybe there'll be a Pal World Snap next. They got the regular Pal World Arena. Pal World, instead of Snap, they'll call it Pal World Click or Snip or Shot or...
What about Pal World Go?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, they can make one of those. Yeah. What else could they do?
Mm-hmm.
A Pal World trading card game that they release all over the world with booster packs. Oh man, maybe we should make like a knockoff of Pokemon and make billions of dollars. Love it. Next few, Lit's School, My Time at Sandrock, which I believe is the sequel to like My Time at Portia. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Never Alone 2, Streets of Rogue 2, Death Must Die, Broken Roads, Dyson Sphere Program, Rise of the Dark Fog, Stage 2. It's a mouthful. Raven's Watch, Cat Quest 3, Brotato, Abyssal Terrors, and Wizard of Legend 2. Anyways, so yeah, there was a lot shown in that ID at Xbox showcase today. I think for me, the 33 Immortals game seems so unique with the 33 player co-op that it could either be super cool, or since it's so weird and unique, it could be like, yeah, I don't like this. So I hope that lands. And then the one where you can fly around, what was it called? Farah, the Sundered Tribes. I thought that one looked pretty cool as well. And then that puzzle game too, Dungeons of Hinterberg. So there was some cool stuff shown there. I hope that they also come to PlayStation, because I'm a little biased towards playing on the PlayStation over the other ones. Okay, that was a mouthful. Devin, this next one, a little bit more for you. According to a rumor from the same guy that he keeps, leaking everything. I've called him here in my write-up. According to the always leaking stuff, Mr. Jez Corden, Xbox is pushing to get the next Fallout game out faster than it was originally planned. Here's his quote.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, that would be really cool. The quote, they're currently formulating plans on how to get the next Fallout here for us sooner rather than later, which I know is vague as heck. Substitution for heck there. But we constantly talk about, will we see Fallout this decade? And the answer is, I think we will. End of quote. So just a little backstory here on Bethesda Game Studios. They have a few different teams, I believe, but their main team, the team that made Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and made Starfield a couple years ago, when Fallout 76 was announced, after Fallout 4 a few years, I think at that press conference, they also revealed, hey, we're working on this sci-fi game, and we're working on Elder Scrolls 6. So that was like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago that they announced that roadmap. And as of today, Starfield has come out. And then earlier this year, I think in February or March, they said that they are like, their team is fully working on Elder Scrolls 6. They take a long freaking time to make their games. Their games are some of the most well-loved games ever made. So, I mean, you do you, Bethesda Game Studios. But with that roadmap and them working on Elder Scrolls 6 first, I feel like Fallout 5 wouldn't be out until 2032 or something, which is 8 years. So, do you think a different team is making Fallout? I think the most obvious one is Microsoft, who owns Bethesda. They also own another team named Obsidian. Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas. And they made, and just recently in the last few years, The Outer Worlds, which is another RPG kind of similar to Fallout. So I don't know, it seems most likely to me that they'd have another team working on Fallout 5 if they want it to be out quicker, because I don't think the main Bethesda Game Studios team, unless Microsoft has really scaled them up and they're working on 2 games, would have that ready anytime soon. Devin, how excited are you now for Fallout 5, given that you've had a resurgence?
Well, I
just
don't
like
want to
kind of the
wait
rest of the
that
world.
long.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the game whenever that comes out. If someone else makes it, I hope that it's just as wacky and crazy as number 4 is. Super exciting, though. I'm actually excited for Elder Scrolls 6. I'm just going to dive in from 6. It's going to be a new game, and I haven't played all the others, but I will be playing that.
We have the remaster of Skyrim on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. So that might be something worth playing in the lead up to Elder Scrolls 6. I think there's still quite a few years before Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, actually, but Yeah, I think that's cool news.
Darn
The
it.
Xbox sees the hype. They see that Fallout is everywhere right now, and they want to push that out quicker. But I think they're kind of stuck with Bethesda's current roadmap unless they do decide to have somebody else work on it, which I would be fine with as long as Xbox's team can kind of take the lead and say, hey, like the quality threshold is super high, but if you, a different team, Obsidian, or even somebody else has a cool idea, you can totally work on it, but you have to hit the same, quality threshold that Fallout's known for. So we'll see, but I think that's cool news that they're working on that. Okay, a few more here that we can get through kind of quickly. Housemarque is teasing Returnal news for their 3-year anniversary, which is tomorrow from when we're recording, or April 30th. From when I've written this, a new update has come out, and Dark Horse Comics has retweeted their post. So it seems like this will actually just be a Returnal like comic book instead of some cool like PlayStation VR mode or pie in the sky Returnal 2, since Returnal is so great. But yeah, so that'll probably just be a comic book, but look out for that. Another announcement: the Smurfs Dreams is a 3D platformer kind of in a similar vibe and vein to Sackboy: A Big Adventure and Super Mario 3D World, which I loved both of those games. Especially I played them with my wife and my kids. Very great 4-player co-op, and even if you just play single player, just have really fun levels. The Smurfs Dreams looks a little lower on the quality scale to me, but if they can nail it, I think the Smurfs is kind of big right now with like the 5 movies they've made. Maybe not 5, but they've made quite a few. Justin Timberlake bringing the Smurfs back, So yeah, check out that if you're interested in playing Smurf video games. Next one, Smite 2, the sequel to the popular MOBA game Smite. It's having a closed alpha this weekend, starting on Thursday, May 2nd, which is yesterday. If you're listening to this on Patreon, if you're listening to this on free feeds, you can skip this section because the weekend's already over. But you can sign up on their website with hopes to be invited. So I haven't played a MOBA. There are a lot to get into, like learning all the rules about towers and lanes, and yeah. But I think Smite is a very popular one, so that will probably have quite a bit of interest. Quick update on the Fallout 4 next gen version. It's now available for those that got Fallout 4 through PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium, and that wasn't working on launch day. So if you've been wanting to play Fallout 4, the new nice shiny version, and got it through PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium, you should be able to upgrade that now for free. So check that out. Next up, Alien Rogue Incursion is coming to PlayStation VR 2, Steam, and Oculus this holiday. The trailer shows almost nothing other than like the Alien logo, but the team that's making it is called Survios, and they make really good VR games. So I hope that will be great. And maybe by then, the podcast and everything will have gone so well that we'll be able to afford a PlayStation VR 2, because I would love to try it. But I imagine that would be a very scary game in VR, just based on how nervous and scared I was playing regular Alien Isolation. So look forward to that, especially if you like VR games. And then last one, if you play Street Fighter 6, which I'm not really into the fighting game genre, but I get the appeal, having played Tekken and Dead or Alive quite a bit growing up. Akuma is, I guess, a pretty well-known character in the Street Fighter universe. He's coming to Street Fighter 6 on May 22nd. I think he's like a villain character, but really big guy, looks strong. Street Fighter has always had a cool, like, cartoony vibe to it. I think it's really cool looking, but I don't think I could break into that scene. I don't have anybody to like play with here at home. I don't know that my kids would love a fighting. Yeah, I don't know. Check out Akuma if you like Street Fighter 6. All right, that's all the video game news. I say all, but that was quite a bit. Anything there, Devin, that you want to double click on? Oh, look at me using a corporate term in a non-corporate setting. Double click. Yeah, David, let's just circle back around.
I wish they showed a little more for the Alien game.
Yeah, I do too.
That would be
Just
cool. Yes, play Fallout 4's next gen version. Fantastic. What else
Very
was
good.
there? Let's see. Returnal, I still need to dive into that. It
Yeah,
looks
I think we should do
fun.
that
It looks
together.
difficult. It
It's
looks
great.
scary.
It
Yes.
is. It's going to get your fear of oceans and water up to a level not quite the highest like Subnautica, but just below that, in my opinion. So that'll be fun. We'll play it together. Yeah, there's some creepy areas. If you have I forget what the name is, fear of like wide open water, wide open spaces. Ooh. Ooh.
Thalassophobia.
So creepy. Yeah, that might be it. I think that might be it. All right. Well, board game news. We have a few items here as well. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It's quite a bit here. Number one's a short one, but a game is coming out at the end of this year from publisher WizKids. And it is called Tales of Arthurian Knights. And it is kind of the sequel to a game called Tales of the Arabian Nights that came out in 1985, 5 years before I was even born. I know that game is pretty well regarded as kind of like a classic. I've never played it. I don't really know anything about it other than it has kind of this open-ended storytelling system where you go to a location and based on the character you are, the location that you're at, and the choice you make, you look at this matrix, kind of like a grid of, okay, I did this and this and this. What is the outcome? So you can kind of with that story system have a lot of different variability from one game to the next. And I think they're trying to recapture some of that. So if you played that game growing up, please write into the show. Let me know if you liked it and if you're looking forward to this newer version. Next couple are both pieces of news about Stonemaier Games. Stonemaier is one of the most well-regarded modern board game publishers. I have behind me my Stonemaier shelf that you can see right here. It's got Wingspan, Tapestry, Apiary, and Libertalia. Devin will see that in a couple minutes after it loads in. And then I also have Red Rising and Rolling Realms on a different shelf. So I have, 6 of their games? And yeah, they make really good ones. Probably their most famous game is Scythe or Viticulture. Yeah, really popular game publisher. They announced a new game. It's called Vantage, and it's coming out next year in 2025. It's a cooperative card. Well, I don't know if it's a card game. Cooperative game that Jamie Stegmaier is one of the co-founders of Stonemaier Games, and he said that it was inspired greatly by Breath of the Wild. The game includes almost 800 unique locations and over 1,700 cards with unique art on each. I'm going to read just a little snippet from Jamie's design diary. He's going to be doing like a monthly kind of diary on his blog to talk about kind of different parts of the game and why they went the direction they're going. And I thought this was the game sounds really unique, at least compared to other modern board games that I've played. So I wanted to read this and see if it sounds intriguing to you and the audience, Devin. So quote from Jamie. Many games and other forms of media influenced the 7-year design process for Vantage, but none more so than Zelda Breath of the Wild. In Vantage, because players are stranded far from each other on a vast planet, only you can see your location, just as you cannot see other locations. Your location is a large card placed upright in front of you in a card holder, so the other players wouldn't be able to see it. You're always facing north, literally looking through your character's eyes. Instead of a miniature, you are your character. Among the various actions to choose from on your turn is to move from your location to an adjacent location in any cardinal direction, so northeast, south, or west. In the example below, the compass shows, he had a picture. The compass shows that you can easily walk east or south. If you do, after completing the action, simply return the current location card to the box in numerical order, its place reserved by your placeholder card, and find location card 103 or 576 to place in your card holder. You could instead move north or west, but the difficulty of these directions is unknown. This is one of the ways that using your eyes matters in Vantage. Are you adept at moving, or specifically moving across water? Does the water appear calm or stormy? Do you or other players have advice to offer mechanically for such movement? It is only after you commit to moving north or west on this location that you will learn the difficulty, perform the action, and go to the resulting location. This is how movement works in Vantage. Nearly every location of the close to 800 unique locations allows you to move in any direction as your turn. In this way, whenever you move, you've created a new branching path in your story. Even if luck has it that you crash on the exact location, a 1 in 126 chance, as the other four characters, or other players, I think, you can move in a different direction for a new adventure. And then, end of quote. Dicebreaker had a little segment too that I thought was interesting about how the game is kind of a roguelike as well, which is a term generally used in video games for things like Slay the Spire or Balatro, where if you lose, you start over. They said, quote, Stegmeyer mentioned in the Dev Diary video that he didn't intend to create a roguelike board game when... Yeah, their quote isn't super complete here. To create a roguelike board game when he first started out, but he did want Vantage to avoid campaign-style play in favor of a self-contained experience. When a character wins, dies, or otherwise is removed from play, all of their progress and cards go with them. Players should choose their routes carefully, and every run should craft a unique perspective or vantage from the cards added to their tableaus. End of quote. I thought this sounds really cool. It sounds very unique compared to most board games that I've seen. Hiding your cards from other players isn't like super intuitive, but man, that is pretty crazy. Like the map is huge, and you each start with a location and you don't know where everyone else is. You kind of have to look around at the cards that you have found, and I guess listen to each other to try and find each other, because I think that's one of the main objectives of the game, is for all of the characters that have crash landed on this place to find each other, and then kind of discover other things along the way. Devin, do you want to play a game with 1,700 cards? And do you want to put sleeves on all 1,700? Because that sounds very fun to me.
I would like to play the game. I don't want to sleeve the cards. It sounds super unique and what would the word be? I don't know the word, but you wouldn't be able to predict what's going to happen before your moves like super well. And I think that's kind of exciting. Unpredictable. Yeah.
Yeah. You said all the words. Yeah.
But no, it sounds cool. Sounds super cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope that it will pan out. I feel like sometimes when people try like a very unique video game or a very unique board game, it can either span and like create a new genre, like From Software did with the Souls games, or if it doesn't like take off, it can just kind of die and never really be replicated again. Another weird example of that is the what are they called? The Lord of the Rings games that don't have Lord of the Rings in the title. Shadows of Mordor and Shadows of War. They have that really cool system, the Nemesis system, and I'm really surprised nobody else has copied it in their games, because it's really cool to like make your interactions with the orcs and the Uruk-hai like really matter. Like, hey, that guy remembers me, and they have like silly names and remembers when I set him on fire or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I hope it can pan out for this game. If any company was gonna pull it off, like a really unique game like this with a humongous number of cards and like a very, just kind of a unique idea, I think Stonemaier can do it just based off their pedigree and their built-in audience. But we'll see. I'm gonna be watching Vantage very closely as it gets closer. It doesn't come out till next year, so it's going to be a while, but they only do a couple games a year, and so him announcing a game is kind of a big deal. All right, the next piece is an interesting thing we can talk about. It's also about Jamie from Stonemaier Games, and I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. courtesy of Dicebreaker, I'm going to read a quote from them. Quote, AI, or artificial intelligence, has become a more prevalent talking point in the tabletop gaming industry and community, with several companies discussing its use or already implementing it in releases. For example, Stronghold Games, one of the publishers behind the Terraforming Mars series of games. Stronghold's pretty big. Terraforming Mars is a huge board game in the hobby gaming space. Continuing the quote, recently came under fire for using artificial intelligence in an expansion, with the studio confirming its use of AI and defending its decision. This is a quote inside the quote. We, Stronghold Games, have and will continue to leverage AI-generated content. End of quote. The CEO of Hasbro, the owner of Wizards of the Coast, the company behind both tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons and trading card game Magic the Gathering, Chris Cox, recently commenting on the use of AI in the tabletop gaming industry, expressed an interest in using tools such as ChatGPT and Midjourney to, quote, mine the 50 years of content under the company's belt in order to leverage literally thousands of adventures and more than 15,000 cards, end of quote. So that's a little bit of the backstory. This has also been a hot topic in video games. You know, games made with artificial intelligence for their art, or even helping with, you know, development or whatever. I know that ChatGPT has a new advancement they're hoping will take off. They gave it some human name that I can't remember. It's like Kevin or something. And Kevin is supposed to be as good at software development as a human. And you can tell Kevin what to do and then watch him code in real time and then tell him, like, no, don't do that, or yes, do that, or change this. So artificial intelligence, man, it's crazy, the things you can do with it. And it's kind of a hot button topic. So that was the backstory. The news from this week, Jamie Stegmaier said in a quote, as a company, Stonemaier Games does not, has not, and will not use any form of AI to replace or augment creative work. If we're creating something, we want it built from the ground up by talented people from different backgrounds, perspectives, and cultures, not an algorithm, especially not an algorithm that borrows without permission or at least proper credit from the original artist. He also said that there may be gray areas when it comes to using AI in the tabletop gaming industry. AI opponents, placeholder art for prototyping, and possibly to help a first-time designer looking to self-publish their game on a shoestring budget were some examples of that gray area. That was a lot. Devin, do you have any opinions on artificial intelligence and its usage? And if it's going to take over the world?
I don't know too much about how AI is being used in the board game industry. Maybe for artwork. I really don't know. Okay. I've used some AI for my emojis, or emotes, as you would call them on Twitch. AI is actually super, super handy, as it kind of maybe avoids copyright strikes or plagiarism. I don't know how it all works. They say, yeah, it is going to take over the world and it's capable of everything. And for me, it's just been a super convenience. I'm not really scared of it at this point, unless they start making, you know, Will Smith iRobots and they turn red. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We don't want any Sunny's right. Well, Sunny was actually a good iRobot at the end. We don't want any of the other ones. But yeah, AI it's a tough one. It's a tough one to talk about, and I have a lot of opinions about it that I don't even know if my opinions are final or right. But I guess my opinion's just kind of in bullet points here. I have a master's degree in data analytics, and man, I feel like data and math are some of the things that could be replaced by AI like easiest, and probably might be. So that always makes me a little nervous that, a computer can do math better than me. That is just always going to be true. But, I hope that there are subtleties in like understanding the reasoning behind the math and the business use case that will keep people from losing their jobs just to calculators that have more and more processing power behind them. So it is kind of a bummer that AI could be stealing jobs from people that are creative or that are hardworking. So those are a couple opinions. I think the other one, yeah, I don't. In your example, Devin, of you using AI art to help with an emote on Twitch, I think is funny, and some of those emotes are very comical. And I think that kind of falls under what Jamie said, the gray area of a first-time designer or like a solo run shop. Devin doesn't have an art department. And Devin, do you have like artistic qualities or like are you a graphic designer? No.
Yeah, absolutely not, bro.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you were using a tool to like help out your small channel that can't afford to pay like somebody $50 an emote for, 100 emotes. So I don't know. I think that is one of those gray areas that Jamie talked about. Like, yeah, helping people come up with ideas and like helping the little guy get started is one thing. But when Wizard of the Coast is saying, yeah, we want to use AI and Stronghold Games, we want to use AI and we will continue to use it, even as two of the most successful companies in the board game industry, that's a little tricky. There is the aspect of, you mentioned, like, kind of gets around the plagiarism thing, and it is kind of true because the plagiarism is kind of obfuscated and aggregated in that, okay, instead of me stealing this from one person, the computer is stealing it from every person that it can find, which is weird, right? But I don't know if those are the same thing or not. And so that aspect of, is it stealing, is tricky, because as humans, we all kind of steal from each other. Like, what's that quote? Great artists steal. Good artists, I didn't say that well, but I think it ends with great artists steal. So everybody is always kind of copying each other and things that work, even on YouTube or music. Creators. I think it was a musician that wrote that quote. So yeah, there's that part of it. And then I think the other part that has always been kind of a hang up to me is, man, I think computers and AI can do so much good for the world, but why would we want it to take over like the fun parts and like the creative parts and the humanities, the things that make us human? We should have it take over all the boring stuff. Like, take over, I don't know, I can't think of a good example. Take over flipping burgers at McDonald's. Take over mining. Take over, like, I don't know. And there are good people that work in those industries, so I don't want to just like discount them and their want to maybe work in those industries either. But I just feel like it stinks that we jump right to, let's take the artist's job and anything that's like more creative, instead of, how can we use this to make a better car, or deal with traffic or solve other problems. Anyway, so AI is like a really tough one, and I know that especially in the board game industry, I feel like, well, I've seen it in both, in the video game industry as well. There are a lot of people that are very vehemently against AI like use in any game. And I get that, because I like games and things that are made by humans, because it has imperfections. It's not stealing from like a million people throughout history. But I kind of agree with Jamie's idea here that, like, if I used an AI to put placeholder art in a prototype game so that I can get that prototype made faster and we can play test it 1,000 more times while the real art's being made, like, that doesn't seem like a bad use. So there's a lot of different things to think about with this, and how AI can be used in much more nefarious ways in government and that kind of thing. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up this AI conversation since it seems to be a pretty big issue right now. That's the heads of 3 different, of the biggest board game companies in the world, with their kind of opinions on it. It was Wizards of the Coast, Stronghold Games, and Stonemaier Games. And I think this has raised everyone's love of Stonemaier and kind of hurt their love of Wizard of the Coast and Stronghold. So I think companies would love to get rid of employees, right? Because employees are their number one cost is paying their employees. And so if they could have a computer do everything that their employees do, they would love that. Just from like a strictly like capitalistic, how can we extract the most money and value out of things? But that can backfire pretty badly if you look too corporate, for sure. So be careful with the AI out there. Don't trigger the end of the world. I don't want to see any I don't know. AI created hamburgers for a long time. I'm not going to eat it. So yeah, anyways, we'll talk more about AI, I'm sure, in the future, but for now there's a bit of a debate on if it should be used at all, or just a little bit, or a lot of it. And I'm kind of in the little bit camp at this point. Cool, that was a big couple things about Stonemaier. I think they're a cool company, so I just wanted to bring up those, and that Vantage game sounds really interesting. All right, next one, we've got a couple purchases, acquisitions, what do they call that? M&A, mergers and acquisitions that have happened. The next one is Katakawa. It might be Katakawa. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Group is a Japanese entertainment company that owns a lot of stuff. They have a big portfolio of like magazines, books, anime, manga, and video games. Most well known among their video game segment is From Software. They own From, who is the incredibly famous development team of
companies.
Of Elden Ring, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, and Dark Souls. And Elden Ring's expansion is coming out, I think, in June. It's going to be a huge deal. Katakawa has purchased one of the largest board game publishers in Japan called ArcLight. ArcLight historically has localized games for the Japanese market, so they've taken games like Root and Gloomhaven and Everdell and translated them and localized them so that like everything is ready for a Japanese market to play them. And then they've done some games the other direction too, like taking them from Japan to other markets. So it seems like Katakawa wants to put more of their properties into the tabletop board game arena, which is cool. Elden Ring is already having like a couple games. I think they kickstarted one a couple years ago when the video game first came out, but I assume they're going to be doing even more there. So that was one acquisition. Next one, I'm skipping down a couple, Devin, if you're following along. Simon Games has bought, I don't know how to pronounce this, Japon brand. It's another board game publisher. Their famous games include Love Letter and Machi Koro. Those are two very well-loved games. Machi Koro is kind of similar to Space Base. Roll dice and then trigger some area of your board based on the dice that are rolled. Which kind of takes that portion of Catan, just the dice roll. Anyways. Simon purchased them. I don't care a ton about mergers and acquisitions if it's something small like this, but Simon is buying them. Next two things are a little more exciting. A Lord of the Rings board game has been teased by Asmodee France. The teaser only shows a single image, but the image is pretty cool. It's Gollum holding the one ring in what seems to be the cave that he meets Bilbo. The designers and the publishers, or the publisher, are mentioned in the tease too. So the two designers are Antoine Bauza and Bruno Cathala, who are two of the most well-loved designers in modern games. Antoine Bauza is well known for Seven Wonders. That was like his huge hit. He also designed Tokaido, which I have, can't see it on my shelf, but it's behind me, and Draftosaurus, which is also behind me. Oh, it's right here by my shoulder. You kind of see it right there. And Bruno Cathala, man, he's made a ton of games. Five Tribes, Abyss, also right here over my shoulder. King Domino, on the shelf back there. Mission Red Planet, also on the shelf back there. And Orichalcum, right here behind my shoulder. Just made so many games. The two of them have worked together one time previously, I think, on Seven Wonders Duel, which is the two-player version of Seven Wonders. And I think most people think that Seven Wonders Duel is the superior version of Seven Wonders. So this game could be really amazing, and having it be Lord of the Rings themed is super cool. As a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I think sometimes Lord of the Rings gets used a little too much, but in what seems like will be kind of a lighter board game, just based on those two designers' output, I think that's cool to have a lighter board game in Lord of the Rings. The publisher is going to be Repos Productions. They published Seven Wonders. So take a look at that, if only to see the cool artwork. It's kind of this hand-brushed art on Gollum. Looks really cool. All right, number 5, Wizards of the Coast. We just talked about them a minute ago. Says that its new Fallout Commander deck for Magic the Gathering is, quote, probably our best performing commander set ever, end quote. Just wanted to call that out. Fallout is continuing its domination over the world. And then last up, we have Crowdfunding Corner, where I mention a few games that are in crowdfunding that I think are interesting. There are so many that it's impossible for me to cover all of them, so maybe write in. Let me know if there's any that you think I should bring up next week. Number 1 is called The Sixth Realm. It's a pretty heavy Euro game from Final Frontier Games. I have played a couple Final Frontier games. One of them was Coloma, which had a really cool mechanism where this kind of circle piece would magnet onto the board and then rotate. And I think one of the stretch goals for The Sixth Realm is for a similar piece to do a similar thing. And this game kind of reminds me of kind of heavy games that have different segments of the board that are different mini games. I haven't played either of the games I'm going to mention, but Trajan and Merchant's Cove are the two that it made me think of. But yeah, the game is very cool looking. The art is colorful, seems to be from good designers, has 7 days left on Kickstarter. So if you like complicated, heavy games, I thought The Sixth Realm looked pretty cool. Next up is Mind Bug, and it's having a new expansion called Battle Fruits. And I don't know if it's 2 expansions or if they're combined into 1 expansion, but the other segment's called Tag Team. So Mind Bug is a dueling game which was designed, I think, by a team, but one of the members of the team was Richard Garfield, who designed Magic the Gathering. So he's like uber famous. And in this game, both players draw from the same deck. I haven't played Mind Bug, but it's got pretty solid reviews. I think people really liked it. This expansion gives new content, so there's new creatures for your conflict between the two players, and it adds enough for a tag team mode, which is 2 versus 2. So if you like Mind Bug, check that one out as well. It's on GameFound until May 4th, which is tomorrow from when you're hopefully hearing this on Patreon. If you're hearing this for free, that was a couple days ago, but you might be able to late pledge. We'll see. All right, next one is Fractured Sky. I did a sneak peek of this last week. It comes out tomorrow on Kickstarter, April 30th. I did get an email from them with a few details, so I wanted to just bring them up. So it's a reprint of the base game, and there's a micro expansion called Rift. And that micro expansion will have plastic and metal piece versions. Their metal pieces in the original game are super cool, so I hope that will convert over to this Rift expansion too. The expansion adds a new set collection mechanism to Fractured Sky, which they say offers longer term strategy and higher stakes battles, and all of the pieces from the expansion will fit in the original box, which I always appreciate. So I can just put the expansion box, I could even toss it or just put it somewhere that doesn't need to be on the shelf. So Fractured Sky, really solid game. Check that one out too if you've been looking for the reprint. Next up is Corpse of Discovery. I think it's Corpse, or maybe it's Core of Discovery, like the Marine Corps. This is from Off the Page. I have one of their games. It's behind me right here, called Mind Management. This company turns like graphic novels into really solid board games. Mind Management is really cool. Basically, one player plays. It's kind of like hide and seek. I think it's called Hidden Movement is the name of the genre. One player is trying to hide from the rest of the players on this board, and the other players can see like where he was a few turns ago to try and deduce where he is. Corpse of Discovery also looks cool. It's very different. It's a cooperative game, but has really cool art, again, made from either a comic book or graphic novel. So check that one out if you like graphic novels or off the pages stuff. Next one is one I just found myself today. It's called Snowcrest, and it is what looks like a fairly light to medium light tableau building card game. It has really cool art from a company called Grail Games. I think they're in Australia, and they're a small publisher, so I wanted to give them a shout out here. This game looks cool. You put these different animals on I think it's a 3x3 grid in like on a tableau board, and then you get to decide what you do. You can like activate an entire row, I think, or a column. Then you have to rest to flip them back over. And they say that the variation of cards and then those actions that you can do on activating or resting kind of give it a ton of replayability. It doesn't have a similar vibe, but it kind of just the feeling, which is a weird thing to say, the feeling I got from looking at it reminded me of Veil of Eternity, which Devin and I have talked about on the show and we both really enjoyed. So check that one out. It's on GameFound, not Kickstarter, until May 7th. So if you're listening to this on free feeds, that will be today or tomorrow. I can't remember what Monday is. It's probably May 6th. Anyways, that one looks really cool, Snowcrest. And then last one, just an interesting idea. It's called GameLib Pocket, a real board game library in your pocket. It's a small box that they say you can hold in your pocket. It has a deck of mini cards, and it is a standard like face deck, just with fancier art. And it has 4 dice, 40 cubes, and 2 meeples. And then every week for a year, they will email you a PDF to rules to a new game that you can play using just those pieces. Some of the examples they gave in that list are games that I didn't think you could play without a huge board, like Go usually requires a huge board. As I sit here now, I'm wondering if they'll create the Go grid by having you place the cards out, and then the intersections between the cards will be the spots. I don't know, just an idea. Go, checkers, backgammon, reversey, Senet, and there were a ton of others that I had never heard of, kind of games from history. And they also mentioned that since it's a standard deck of cards with a few dice, any games that play with a standard deck of cards and need like a couple cubes or a couple dice or a meeple, you could play as well. So I think their idea is that you can take that with you anywhere and just kind of always have 100 games that you can play with that one little box. Cool idea. I like how the cards look. I hope that the crazy person in me, I hope that the box would fit the cards sleeved. Because if I'm going to play 100 different games with that same deck of cards, they're going to get trashed unless I sleeve them.
That's a great point.
Cool idea. Just wanted to give it a shout out. They also, on their Kickstarter, they have a pay what you want price, which I don't know how they get away with that because I feel like so many people will just pledge $1. They have like a recommended, like, we really hope everyone will pledge $12, but you can pay what you want. I'm like, man, how are you going to make any money? But that's what they're doing. So check that out. It's on Kickstarter until May 9th. Woo, that was a lot, Devin. That was a lot of news.
It was a lot of news. Cool, it's fun to hear about, though.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool games coming out, both video games and board games. So I think it's fun to kind of put this list together and at least, even though we can't talk about every game like multiple times, I hope that we'll talk about the cool ones at least once. So cool. That was the board game news for the week. All right, last segment here. We're going to talk about, just for a few minutes before we wrap up, what our favorite open world games are. Just kind of, again, piggybacking on the love that Fallout has right now as a big open world RPG that gives you tons of options and choices and things you can focus on. And it's just made me think, what other games like that do I like? We could even mention, I don't like to be too negative, but we can even mention some that maybe we didn't like so much. I've got a couple here listed that I didn't love for one reason or another, and quite a few that I did. So I think we've already talked about Fallout a bit, so maybe we'll skip that one for this list. But Any other games that you've really liked in that genre before, Devin?
Ooh, let me think. Open world games. Yes. Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh, good choice. You just
Fantastic.
played that.
Yes, absolutely loved it. I loved the
Curious,
vaulting and mantling in the game. Felt very natural. The game was hilarious and random. Fun, like kind of mounting big enemies, which was just amazing. You can play it by like searching everywhere, or just kind of, what do they call it? Beelining. But fantastic
Golden Path, main story. Yeah, I think when I was thinking through this list, one of the things I thought was super important for an open world game, in my opinion, is like cool physics. That like a physics engine that makes it fun to play around in that world. And Fallout definitely has that. You know, you ragdoll physics, you accidentally blow a guy's head off and he flies 100 feet.
Yeah, and power armor.
Very violent.
No fall
and
damage.
The power armor.
Like
Yeah. And Dragon's Dogma 2 has a lot of that too, where I think you mentioned a few weeks ago, like you get picked up by a giant and he just hucks you across like a river or something. And I saw one funny video online of Dragon's Dogma and they said, this is why this is my favorite game. And it's this troll that was like coming to kill their group. He like tripped or something and fell across a ravine.
Yes.
And they used him as a bridge.
Yes, it happens in a few sections of the game, yes.
So maybe that was a scripted moment, but yeah, I think non-scripted moments where you can just have like weird things happen and it feels like, wow, I saw something that other people probably aren't going to see because this game just says like, here's the world, go have fun.
I saw a video going back to Fallout 4 on socials, and this rad roach fell off a wall and started running towards the main character. But there was a garbage can laying down on the ground. The rad roach ran into the garbage can and just started. The garbage can just became a part of the bug. So the garbage can was just moving outside, so you couldn't see the bug anymore. It was just a garbage can chasing the guy, and I was like, that's hilarious. No one else has probably ever seen that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a cool part of an open world is some sort of physics. The next one that I would bring up is probably Horizon. Both Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, and they're very cool. They don't have the same like level of, you know, physics per se, but in that one it's more about the big fights and the physics that happen in the fight. You're like fighting the giant, I forget what they're called, but like the big woolly mammoth type robot is called an iron tusk or something tusk. And in those ones they'll just be like plowing through these huge walls, and you can like blow parts of the robot off and then use those parts against them. I think that's the coolest part of the Horizon series. In the first one, I remember there's the Thunder Jaws, the big T-Rex like robots that are super tough. But if you have defeated a Ravager first, Ravager is kind of like a bigger wolf enemy. They have a Ravager cannon on them that you can tear off. And that Ravager cannon will tear like anything to shreds. And so I would always try and kill one of those first and take the Ravager cannon with me to the Thunderjaw fight and just freaking destroy that thing. And yeah, things like that are like the fun part. Like they didn't really plan for this. They put the Ravager like way over here, but I carried this thing half a mile so I could fight the T-Rex. And like what a cool moment. Like you feel like really OP because you outsmarted the game a little bit. Yeah, so Horizon's really cool. I also like that you can kind of play with the world and you can set traps and bombs. And another cool part of that game was like tethering the bigger enemies down. So you could like shoot the ropes at them to tie them to the ground so they couldn't move. Especially with like this, I can't remember all their names, the Storm Eagle kind of one. And again, with the Thunder Jaws, that was kind of important too. But I thought those were cool. And I think it's for the same reason. Maybe physics are just like super important for an open world game, even if it's a different type of physics just on the enemies. Yeah, I think that's what makes the Horizon games pretty special. Their story is actually really cool too if you like sci-fi. But yeah, I think the physics there are really cool. Have you played those, Devin? At least the first one, I think, right?
At least the first one. Maybe a little bit of... I've played a little bit of both, at least, yes.
Okay. The second one gets really heavy into sci-fi. There's like I won't spoil anything, but there's people that come from other planets and stuff too. So it gets like even more sci-fi, which is pretty cool. I haven't. It's one I need to get back to. I probably got 3/4 of the way through it, and just haven't finished the ending. It is a little big. Sometimes there's a little. That's one of my. Okay, we're gonna do a little tangent. One of the things I don't like about open world games is they can be too big and overwhelming for me as a person that doesn't have a lot of time to play games. I love popping around to lots of different things. Like, I'm going to play an hour of Balatro, then I'm going to play an hour of Fallout, then I'm going to play an hour of Enter the Gungeon, and then I'm going to do a Spelunky run. And open world games kind of seem like they need all of your attention for a while, or else you're just never going to finish it.
Yeah.
And that can be tricky. That's one of the reasons I didn't like this first one on my list here is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I thought it was pretty fun, and it had fun combat, and the world was cool, but it was just so freaking massive that I didn't feel like I was making any progress. I probably played it for 25 hours, and I really think I saw like 1 to 2% of the map. I was like, it's too big. Like, there's too much, and that's probably a me problem more than a game problem. But I also feel like that game didn't have the same physics pull and the fun physics stuff that a lot of these other ones we're talking about do.
Yeah.
So, I've got a couple more here that I'll mention, and then you can throw in yours whenever you would like to, Devin, if you've got any others. I just played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, finished it last week, maybe the week before. I can't remember which week. Those are awesome, again, just because it's a huge sandbox, and especially Tears of the Kingdom. You can just, how can I break this? However I want. I can make a flying machine. I can fly wherever I want. I can, as long as I spend the time to get my batteries good enough, like I can make the weirdest machines ever. I've seen like people make these death boxes. They'll like, it's kind of, I think one of the social media posts I saw for this contraption like referenced World War II and the concentration camps, which is a terrible joke, even though I kind of like dark comedy occasionally. But they would like throw enemies inside this box and then turn on what looked like all these showers, but out of the showers came like flamethrowers. So you're just like throwing enemies in this giant box, and then the box kills them all. And you can just be so creative in that. So I had to give a shout out to Zelda because those, man, they're so good. And then I really like open world games where you have something with you that is kind of like a home base that you're leveling up. The two that I immediately thought of were Pacific Drive, even though it's not like incredibly open world. It's like more open segments that are connected together, but you're taking that car with you the whole time, and the car is getting better and better and better, and it feels like really satisfying to take that around with you. Kind of similar to Fallout 4, if you're taking the power armor with you and like adding new segments to it, you're like taking like a mini home base with you. I think that is cool. And there was a Mad Max game that came out on the PlayStation 4 a long time ago, and it had a similar vibe where you were leveling up your car and getting better and better, and as you got to these new segments, you would fight. And that game was really cool because it had car combat, kind of like Twisted Metal, where you'd be fighting these like bands of raiders in their cars, going 75 miles an hour, and then you would get to like these camps of raiders and hop out and sneak around and do like Batman Arkham kind of combat with punches and stabs and grenades and stuff. So it kind of mixed those two combat styles. And yeah, I like that feeling of upgrading like the car as like your mobile camp. So those are some other video game call outs. I have one board game I wanted to call out, unless you have any others, Devin, that you want to mention.
I'll quickly mention them. Elden Ring needs no introduction. You know what it is. Yeah. Fantastic. But I also, two that fall into a similar category for me are Marvel's Spider-Man and Batman Arkham City. Everyone does have access to the same physics, but I think it's all about taking the time to perfectly learn the physics. I've seen people really perfect web slinging in Spider-Man, which I find extremely fun to watch. They'll do this perfect flip in this launch off of a roof, which if you haven't spent the time to practice that, you really don't know how to do it. And while they're falling, they're on their phone messaging someone. Like Miles Morales is like texting as he's falling down, and I was like, that's actually super cool. And the Batman games are super fun as well. Maybe a little bit older, but they're great.
No, and I think even coming back to the physics thing, one of the really, when Insomniac made the first Spider-Man game, one of the things that they said was an absolute necessity for them was they wanted to make sure that when you were web swinging, that every web connected to a building. There were no webs connecting to like midair or anything. And so I think there is like quite a bit of physics built into that and into like your movement physics, like you said. Like you can do the flips and stuff or put on the Miles Morales suit so that you kind of have that glitchy effect from those Into the Spider-Verse movies. So yeah, I think even the physics help there too. And those two games are amazing. And I think what helps them for me is their open world is a bit smaller and you can traverse it so quickly that they have like a super awesome story like built into that world. And then if you want a little bit of like open world goodness, you can go out and fight like camps and stuff and swing around and do that physics stuff. But yeah, great call out. Love those. Didn't mean to interrupt. Did you have another one?
I think that was it for me. Yeah, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, if I'm playing Fallout 4, you made a good point. Like, it's less overwhelming for you because you're able to traverse the world so quickly. I think Fallout 4 for me would be much rougher if I didn't have fast travel. But I'm also imagining like if you could web swing or something in Fallout, you could probably get around their world pretty quickly because it's not that massive. Like,
yeah. I think that might be an important thing for me too. Is like, I don't think the world needs to be big just for big sake. Just make it like dense with cool things to do. Because then I want to stop and have fun. And yeah, cool. Those are great. The last one I just wanted to mention, I do have a board game behind me called Near and Far. It's made by Red Raven Games. I think the guy that founded Red Raven, I think he lives here in Utah, Devin. His name's Ryan Lockett. And Near and Far is a really cool game where you go on like a 10 kind of episode journey with the same character, and you level up that character between the 10 segments you play. And so there's a binder in the game that has there's a tutorial map and then the 10 regular ones. And so every time you play, you flip to a different map that you play on in that big binder. And then you're leveling up that same character between each. And then on each of those, I guess the overarching story is you're trying to like defeat this big bad guy so that you can, I don't know, avenge somebody or do something cool. I've never finished the campaign. I do want to, but on each of those play segments, you're playing a pretty like solid worker placement game where you're putting your dude out at different shops in the town to get different things like, food or new weapons or whatever. And then you send your character out from the town to this map on that binder. And that map has tons of different locations, and you can send them any direction you want. And when you send them out, you'll like put down your tents to show that you've built a settlement there, and then you can continue to move on from those settlements. And at each location, there might be like some event that happens, and there's another binder that you open up and read, like a specific kind of paragraph from that binder. And so you might like go to this cave, and then you have something happen to the cave, and you have to make a decision, or it has to check against your skill level to see if you complete the quest of the cave. And even if you don't, it's okay. If you do, like, you'll get some bonuses and stuff. So it's a really fun kind of feels open world board game that I've only been able to play a few times. I would love to play like a segment through all of it. You level up your character between each game depending on how well you did, so you can keep like a campaign going of those 10 playthrough segments. So I wanted to give a shout out in the board game space. There are games that try to capture that same feeling. We just talked about Stonemaier and them making Vantage next year, which seems humongous. And Near and Far is a smaller kind of version of that with a bit more focus on like those story moments and like exploring this world and putting out settlements. And Near and Far is really cool. It makes me want to try Ryan Lockett's most recent game, which is called Sleeping Gods, which is like exponentially bigger than Near and Far. But I think I want to finish Near and Far first, just to make sure that that kind of game is something for me. So wanted to give a shout out in the board game space to games that also try to capture that feel of I can go anywhere and do anything and make my own character however I want. I think that's part of the allure of Fallout as well, is like I can make my own character and there's 75 different perks and I get to choose which one I want to level up in and choose my armor and make and name my character. So Near and Far, really, really cool as well. Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for episode 5 of the Super Game Brothers podcast. Really appreciate you listening to the show. Please give us a good review on Apple's podcast service if you can. They promote our show more if we have reviews. And so even if it's a bad review, tell us, I guess, and we'll try to improve. We're only 5 episodes in. We're trying to be better every time. Make sure to check out Devin on Twitch and TikTok every weekday. That's at Player4 on Twitch and at Player4TV on TikTok. Currently playing through Fallout. Probably going to play Tears of the Kingdom in the near future. And then I think we even talked about Final Fantasy 16. Lots of good stuff coming over there for Devin. Yeah. And make sure you check out our other content on Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. And if you want some extra perks for our show, please check out our Patreon. Again, you can sign up to follow our Patreon totally for free and get some extra episodes there totally free. But if you do want to check out even more cool perks, there are some paid Patreon levels as well. Again, just really appreciate it. Devin, it's almost 10 o'clock. What's the rest of your evening look like? I feel like it's usually been go right to bed.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna like make some popcorn, probably watch a movie on my phone, and probably fall asleep like super fast.
Yeah. Is that your normal nighttime routine, is to fall asleep to a movie?
No, I usually just set my phone near me and just zonk out because I sleep so easily. Sleeping is, I don't have insomnia. I don't know why. I just crash and I'm just gone until my eyes open. It's crazy. But yeah, I'll just go to sleep and then I'll be streaming bright and early. So more screen time.
Fun. Yeah, love it. Love the screens. Got to turn all the humans into AI robots as much as we can by having them stare at screens all day. But yeah, anyways, really appreciate the audience for listening. You guys are the best and what will help us to keep doing the show long term. So really appreciate it. And with that, we will say goodbye and see you on the next one. So everyone, have a good week.
Farewell.
See ya.